Hey everybody, how's it going? Happy Thursday.
Happy Baby Friday.
Oh, wait. Oh, now I can hear you. Oh, hey Bianca. Happy early Friday. Yes, what's going on?
Not much. Just kind of waiting for everybody to roll in. And I'm sad. This is our last session with you. We've had such great conversations, and it's going to be bittersweet to host this one, but I think it's going to be a good one nonetheless.
I completely agree. Yeah, we'll give it a minute for everybody to show up, but it's been great having you guys on here. I've learned a lot, and you know what? Sometimes I get caught up in the timeline, prices going down and so forth, but just hearing all the builders and leaders in the space, like talking the past few weeks, really does give me a lot of faith and hope for the future because everybody's still building, everybody's still executing ideas, and just the passion from the leaders is just awesome to see. So that's my 2 cents on that, but I definitely miss you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to keep our head above the waters, like you mentioned. I too am a crypto native like you are, and you and I are part of some of the same groups. And it's so, I don't think people realize that there's more to just one, like cryptocurrencies and NFTs. There's a lot more being built in the background. But yeah, I'm gonna put myself on briefly to mute so I can invite some of our speakers up. I see them in the crowd. Give me 1 second.
Worries, but yeah, welcome. We'll go ahead and kick it off. Start with some introductions. Happy to have everybody here. And maybe since I do have a lot of like new speakers that I haven't talked about, we'll start with Chris though. One of my besties, Chris. We also want to talk about: do you guys drink coffee at this time? What's in your coffee cup? Maybe to spice it up. But welcome back,
Thank
Chris.
you. It's we're it's like OG BFFs at this point. Um, no, I mean no coffee for me at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm just sipping on some pure leaf, no sugar, real brewed tea. It's really exciting.
No, glad to have you back. But maybe go ahead and do a little intro just for those that might not know who you
Yeah,
are.
for sure. So my name is Chris Pereira, located up in New England, where we're home of Dunkin's that apparently just bought Subway. If you haven't heard that news, that was quite interesting. But I'm the director of sales engineering for Front Finance, where we are connecting or bringing a connection layer of an open financial system for reading your all your different accounts in both TradFi and DeFi, and transferring your digital assets from A to B in an embedded viewpoint. Prior to this, I was in the Coinbase Cloud team where we were doing infrastructure for shared and dedicated validators as well as RPC node functionality.
Awesome. Great intro and always great to have you back and love hearing your insights. And also from the front team, we also have Gabriel here again. Welcome back, Gabriel. Gabriel, are you there? If not, we'll circle back around. Let's go. Next on my screen,
Hey,
I see David. Oh, wait, Gabriel's there. What's up, Gabriel?
hey, Jess. Sorry, I had some connectivity issues there. I caught the tail end of it, but I figured you were you were calling on to me. How are you?
Good, good. And you just wanted to see if you wanted to give a quick intro and any coffee in your cup at this time.
I think he's rugging still. Can you hear us, Gabe?
Yeah, I can hear him. Gabe, you're going to have to do a quick lap around the block. So drop back down and we'll bring you right back
Yeah.
up to see if that fixes it. But let's go ahead with the next person on my screen, David. David, welcome. How's it going? Maybe give a quick intro to the group.
Hi, Jess. Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Bianca and Jess. Known you for a while. I see some familiar faces up here and some unfamiliar ones, as well as in the audience. So hello to everyone. My name's David. Yeah, I live in Indianapolis. I actually work in marketing and graphic design for a manufacturing company, but I'm a DeFi enthusiast by night. Started as a trader several years ago on Harmony One, RIP, and used most of the profits I made to reinvest in myself and created MTop Swap, which is a meta aggregator, about 18 months ago, along with a small but super loyal and awesome team that I have a chance to look up to almost every single day. We've done a lot with a little, and I'm happy to be here, grinding away in however many more months or years this bear will last. Cheers.
Great to have you. And yeah, David's an OG from when I used to be a validator on Harmony One. Yeah, RIP to the Harmony hack back then. But next up on my screen, I see Ohm. Welcome. What's going on?
Hey, everybody. Ohm from Wallet Guard here. Backgrounds in cybersecurity. Excited to chat with everybody. Definitely a lot of new faces here, so excited for the conversation.
Great to have you. Great to have you. And then we have Tabasco. Spicy. What's going on?
Hey, good morning, everybody. It's good to see everybody here. I'm pretty familiar with a lot of our speaker slots, a lot of the speakers up here today. David, Jess as well, of course. Also from the Harmony days. Unfortunately, I was just talking with a project that's currently building on Findora. We were talking about Harmony and the unfortunate circumstances of that. But yeah, I guess for a quick intro, I've been in the Web3 space for about 3 years now. First joined Web3 probably back in late 2020 when I was 15. I am now 17. I've been working full-time in Web3 for a little bit over a year now, almost a year and a half. I'm the developer relations team lead at Chainstack. So Chainstack is the leading suite of services connecting with connecting developers with Web3 infrastructure. If anybody knows what that means, essentially that means RPC nodes, subgraphs, IPFS, data APIs, sort of the foundational infrastructure that builders need to create powerful applications. Very excited for our conversation today. Like I mentioned, super excited about the speakers up here today. And I think the topic is super interesting. So looking forward to kind of diving in here.
Great to have you. And yeah, also an OG from way back on the Harmony days. But I do see we have Gabriel back up. Gabriel, let's give it a little mic check.
Let's try again. Can you hear me?
Oh, you sound good.
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, sorry, I'm having some connectivity issues, but pleasure to be here again. Good to hang out with you guys as always. And excited to have everyone on the panel. I work with Chris here at Front. I'm leading our sales and go-to-market initiatives. At Front, we empower builders of financial products to provide financial value to their users through our connectivity layer. So yeah, really excited to chat about these topics and dig in more.
Awesome. Always great to have you back. And then we have two more speakers to go through and then we'll get started. Luke, welcome. How's it going? Also from the Front team. Welcome, Luke.
Thank you. It's great to be here. First time speaking. Yes, I am on the product team at Front. I've been here since the beginning of this year, and I'm actually relatively new to the Web3 space. So, maybe can offer a few different perspectives. But, prior to this, I was with Stripe for a stint and Intuit for a while, and a number of startups. Have been mostly in fintech for my career. Very excited about today. I'm also an absolute caffeine addict, so just strong black coffee for me.
Black coffee is the way. And welcome to Web3. Hopefully we don't scare you off. We're just very passionate about the space. But last but not least, I believe it's Mariana that we have behind the algorithm.
No,
Just wanted
so
to double
it's
check.
actually his name's Leo. We have the CEO.
Yeah, so
Oh,
Yeah,
hey,
so
Leo.
hello everyone. My name is Leo. I don't have Twitter. I deleted it a few years ago, and the app is still just as bad, or probably worse. But I like the community there. I should get back
Welcome,
onto it.
Leo.
You do need it for news. Yeah, I started off as a developer about 3 years ago. I was doing computer science. I participated in ETH Denver and went third place there, and we built the Chainlink integration. And so our protocol has been a Chainlink node operator for about 3 years now, under the Vulcan Link brand. And now we're also building a very easy to use API for deploying smart contracts on the blockchain. So you don't need gas because we use wallet abstraction, and you also don't need private keys because we use MPC provider. So the goal is to enable like all software developers to easily get into the space without having to think about smart contracts, Solidity. You can just deploy any type of use case very easily.
Awesome, Leo. Nice to have you, and welcome to X, formerly known as Twitter. And with that, I'll let Bianca go ahead and introduce herself, and then she could kick it off. And just a reminder for the speakers, when you're not speaking, if you could just mute your mic so we could get a good audio on the replay. Go ahead, Bianca. Welcome back.
Thanks. So, yeah, I kind of want to start off by making a really cool announcement. Front's going to be basically exhibiting, or not basically, we are going to be exhibiting at Tech Crunch, the other Tech Disrupt in San Francisco, from September 19th through the 21st. We're super ecstatic about that. A lot of individuals or startups basically applied, thousands applied, and we were one of the few that were chosen. So that just kind of goes to show how powerful the team is and the innovation that's happening there. So if anybody's going, let us know. We'd love to meet up with you there. Lots of awesome and cool things happening there. But then I also kind of want to just open up the conversation of use case, right? I don't know how many times you and I have been in a space just where they talk about that, about how important use cases, like, right? Like, the Web3 industry in general isn't just NFTs and crypto. There's technology that's supported on this that people don't really even know that is happening. But not just that, even people like Luke, who, right, isn't in Web3, but he's developed a lot of awesome, or helped at least on the product side, developing really unique use cases that are now kind of merging into Web3. So we're seeing kind of some synergies there, which is awesome. And I kind of want to just open up the conversation on developing powerful use case, and maybe the way it works for people who haven't been up here first. I'm just going to ask a broad question. One of you guys can answer. I'll probably kick it off to one of my teammates, and then you guys can piggyback off that, or I'll just move on to the next question. So you just raise your hand, and then I'll call on you. Multiple people can raise their hand at the same time. There's no time limit per question, if that makes sense. So okay, let's get started. So obviously, a lot of these intros kind of shed light into the different backgrounds that our panelists have. And I really want to open up the conversation. I'll kick it off to Chris, since he's a bestie now, with, the skills and also insights that you have had the opportunity to bring with you in your new role, and just like what you kind of see that you could expand on, and things that like the industry is needing, especially with your time in Coinbase. So I kind of want to kick that question off to you, and then we can keep it going from there.
Awesome. Thank you. So I won't go, I'll go all the way back to the beginning of my history of my jobs, which, I got started in Forex trading, which back in the day, Forex trading, this is like 15 years ago, Forex trading was considered like the wild, wild west of TradFi at the time, because there was no rules, no regulation, leverage. You could get up to 500 to 1. And if anybody's not sure what that is, it's basically you're trading $500 worth of a currency for the equivalent of $1 backing. Where like JP Morgan and bigger institutions, 20 to 1 or even 40 to 1 was considered a lot at the time. So 501 was like off the charts. So it gave me a unique perspective into what like the OTC markets are and whatnot. And then I started mining Bitcoin in 2011 when I was at that job too, believe it or not. And then went through a series of other TradFi related roles where I was working on the data analytics side and helping HSBC and UBS and RBC and a bunch of Citigroup and those banks balance their ledger in the FX trading world. but eventually made my way back into like true finance fintech with Coinbase. And what I found was there were so many translatable skills between what I had learned over the 10 plus years at the time before entering Coinbase, and then you just like add jet fuel to what traditional finance is and what traditional finance laws were trying to like guardrail for how money is supposed to function and things of that nature. And you set it up in a programmatic manner so that you could really accelerate what finance should be and how to provide accountability and transparency in what finance was trying to be, but then obviously stopped because there was a lot of shady stuff that people didn't want, visibility into. Even though crypto it does have a level of anonymity to it, although now what we're seeing with the centralized exchanges all doing KYC, the only way to have anonymity these days is through a DEX, I think. But learning all of those skills from just like the FX days of, the Wild West of trading into the normal TradFi balanced ledgers and whatnot, and seeing how that has like parlayed into what crypto is trying to be has been very interesting. And understanding how all these different systems work together in different departments and groups and things of that nature has been very cool. And I've gotten a strong technical understanding of just how trade systems work, which is obviously a key component, at least in the domestic region, because everybody pretty much in the domestic region invests as a speculative asset in crypto, not uses it just for like normal e-com solutions. So seeing how people leverage it and want to, buy and sell and hold, and whether they want to do DeFi yield generation or lending or anything along those lines. The 10 years, 12 years of my career in TradFi gave me a really strong base and understanding for what I think crypto has tried to accelerate and just blockchain in general, which has been really cool, which is, after I decided to exit Coinbase, I wanted to stay in this space, and that's why Front was so compelling to me, because they're not only allowing you to do what blockchain is, but they're trying to abstract the functionality away so that it's great for the everyday user, so more people can be involved in it and there's broader adoption.
I love that. Does anybody else want to expand on that? Go ahead, Leo.
Hi. I didn't raise my hand initially because I don't work on the finance space of Web3, but since no one else was adding on top, I figured I'd join in. I think DeFi is definitely like, and just general finance use cases is the kind of first real use case we've seen of blockchain. I mean, we have existing products like, Uniswap, Aave, et cetera, that are actively being used by not just like companies, but like individuals as well for easily trading in and out of crypto. However, I would like to see in the long term, like it's the point of Ethereum, right, when it was first launched was like, oh, it's going to be smart contract. And so the idea of smart contracts wasn't just like finance, but just general business logic, right? In the same way that like we've seen like that things are more and more centralized. So people are concerned about like, like big tech, like, X controlling all your data. So I'm very excited about like other use cases. I mean, obviously as a Chainlink node operator, we're definitely very excited about DeFi because whenever DeFi grows, we grow because they usually use some of our data feeds, the Chainlink price feeds. But one thing I thought was interesting with Chainlink is when they launched their NBA Top Shot project, which was a collectible that was connected to sports data, and that kind of opened my eyes that like, oh, you can connect like other real world data to blockchain, right? And more broadly, we've seen Polygon Odyssey launch. That's not with Chainlink, but like it's a similar idea of like connecting real world data, in this case your loyalty data, with blockchain. That's things that I'm very interested about because imagine like in the future where like you're buying products and you can have like these loyalty programs, these memberships, different all of your customer data can essentially be on chain, and we have new technologies like ZK that can enable privacy for that, while also enabling different interoperable interactions. So we're excited about like things.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what everyone said so far. One of the biggest issues, of course, that many people talk about is there's a high state of fragmentation overall in most of the ecosystems people trade on. It's kind of confusing, especially for newcomers. And I do believe in the future people won't even think about what chain they're on. They'll just trade. They won't be so fragmented. But at the moment, it's fragmented technologically, bridging and different RPCs, as well as from a community standpoint here on X and Discord and Telegram, etc. When I was a trader, I had millions of tabs open: Twitter, Discord, charts, dexes, bridges, and now there's even 5 or 10 aggregators. There's even too many aggregators now. There's so many tabs, and it's all very fragmented from a user experience perspective. It's just one of the things that struck me when I decided to build something. I think a powerful thing to do is to solve your own problems that you face wherever you were, whether it be Coinbase or just a DeFi trader. And chances are, if you have that issue, other people do too. So it kind of personally drove me to create a product that I would want to use, and that would want to use, by putting aggregating the aggregators, putting price on the same page, putting bridges on the same page, kind of like a dashboard, which a lot of products are doing now. But figured I'd take a shot at it myself and build something I would want to use. But in terms of a use case, not only are one-stop shop, quote unquote, dashboards pretty popular nowadays, but I'm seeing a lot of revenue kind of come into play, whether it be even fee sharing kind of leaks into that as well, even with Friendtech. I think a big incentive there is people being able to share part of those fees, love or hate it, right? Or profit share or revenue share based off of token holdings or something like that. But that seems to be a pretty powerful use case and incentive. Instead of just relying on a token or an NFT floor price to go up and flip it, receiving some kind of regular profit share that has two-way incentivization to use a product and to show it to your friends, so more people use it.
Go ahead, Luke.
David, I love that. I love the focus on the specific use cases. So if I maybe just come back to a second I think the original question was around past experience and how that kind of set you up for what you're currently doing in Web3. And for me, I mentioned when I introduced myself, I don't have a background in Web3. I've been a product manager for a number of years now, and I think the interesting thing about building product, whether you're using blockchain technology or something else, is there's still a lot of just very core fundamentals to that, like understanding how to connect with customers and identify very specific pain points to solve, and what your competitive advantages are, and all that stuff. And so I spent a number of years working in the compliance space. I was working on tax software, both with a startup and with Stripe. And one of the things that really taught me is that there's just a ton of value in taking something that's complicated and making it really simple. And so, something that was very compelling to me about Front and why I decided to join this team was, my initial introduction to crypto, for somebody who has been in, just like the traditional finance world for so long, was that this is crazy how complicated and, quite frankly, dangerous it is, right? As soon as I tried to transfer crypto for the first time, seeing all of these warning messages about, network and wallet compatibility and, risk of losing assets, I was like, that's just absolutely insane. Why is there no safeguard, and why is this so hard? And I think a lot of the things that seem fairly normal to us, anybody maybe more with a technical background, or anybody that's maybe been in the Web3 space for a bit, things like API keys, QR codes, transferring, making a decision to transfer over a certain network, things like that. can really be scary concepts to somebody who's being introduced to the space for the first time. And so I think, trying to solve that problem and making, something that is scary and complicated really, really easy for somebody who doesn't have, a background in crypto just makes it so much more accessible. And that was just really exciting and compelling to me.
I love that. I mean, I want to give a shout out to the Fire team. We had them on last week episodes, and they basically created a product to safeguard from exactly what you were just talking about. And I think it's so important that people start to really pay attention to the different projects that are developing a very similar use case as it goes to, security. So I love that you brought that up. Go ahead, Tabasco.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to answer the question, but first of all, I want to highlight how cool each of the projects on the panel today are. MTOP Swap, Front Finance, Wallet Guard, Owl. I mean, the list goes on. This is awesome. And these are all projects that I personally find very interesting, and I love these things. So I think the lineup here is awesome. What I wanted to mention regarding the question that you asked was about past experience, bringing things to the table on new projects. I think this is a really interesting question because Web3 as an ecosystem, as I'm sure plenty of you may agree, is at the core of Web3 is this philosophy of sort of openness and permissionlessness and collaboration in a lot of cases. And what we see that reflected in professional experience and people that actually contribute in Web3. So I think a core ideal of Web3 that I personally really like and that I've, of course, leveraged in my own career is the fact that Web3 is generally open to participation regardless of who you are. Whether that's within an organization, within a large organization. Like, for example, I've been working at Chainstack here for almost a year and a half, started full-time at 16, which is something that in Web 2 wouldn't necessarily be possible, at least in most cases. Or even if you don't want to work in an organization, you can start your own project. You can have an idea. You can scale something. I think MTOP Swap is a great example of this. Just a few months ago, I remember back when they were just releasing their kind of minimum viable product and all that stuff, and they've grown so much since then. And there's so many examples of this throughout the ecosystem and on this panel today of either one, joining another organization that you believe in. In my case, it was Chainstack, and that as a developer myself, a big part of the reason why I joined Chainstack was because of the mission to essentially enable reduce friction in development, enable developers to actually build products easier and go to market faster. And to me, that was very important because I experienced issues with that in my own journey, getting into the space, and I wanted to solve that problem and alleviate those issues for developers. But all of us, as we get into Web3, eventually identify a problem. And I think this is at the key of when you have a good use case and when you've done something important, is when you get into Web3 and you spend a year, you spend 2 years interacting with the space, being within the community, maybe working for an organization. Eventually you come across a problem that you may identify, right? Like in my case, it was development issues, right? Having a lack of like a central platform to get infrastructure, to get high quality infrastructure. Or a bunch of other issues that I built my own projects for. Like some of the people in here might know Amity DeFi, which was the first project I built. Or MTOP Swap, like David was mentioning, being able to, he identified the issue that trading felt fragmented. Using a million different RPCs to trade, a few tokens. I mean, that experience was an issue, and he solved it. And like Wallet Guard, I think is another. I love Wallet Guard. These guys are awesome, and the solution that they built solves a massive problem too. So what the point I'm trying to make is that when you identify a problem within the ecosystem, whether you're joining an organization that solves the problem or whether you're creating your own solution, in my opinion, that's how you've created a good use case, and anybody can do this, which is kind of the beauty of Web3, that regardless of who you are, you can identify that problem and then you can solve it. And I think that's a very important thing to note in this conversation.
You set me up beautifully, Tabasco. So I want to thank you for our next question, and then we'll open it up to Wallet Guard. But with what you just basically kind of pointed out, one of the key elements in what every use case should possess, or at least every powerful use case should possess, and that's like identifying a problem within the industry or the niche that you are trying to build on. So I kind of want to open it up to the crowd after Wallet Guard kind of expands on your points on what key elements do you believe every powerful use case should possess outside of, kind of just identifying a pain point. Go ahead, Wallet Guard.
Yeah, so I think something that's like interesting when it comes to products and like building products, like you should always talk to your user, number one, right? And when you do talk to your users, like you should ask for feedback, like what would you do without this product? Does it make their life more difficult now with or without the product? That's really like one of the most defining factors in finding a successful idea, in my opinion.
And you have to, excuse me, how do you pronounce your name? Is it Om?
Yeah, it's just
Okay, awesome. Great. So I want, who else wants to expand on that? I think we have a lot of powerful speakers here with a lot of experience. And I kind of want to maybe dive into Luke or Chris or even Leo and David on what are some of the things that people, especially for the new builders here in the space that are like trying to maybe like come from either traditional finance or traditional Web 2, I guess I'm going to say, that want to kind of start exploring what blockchain can do. Like, what are some of the things that you or pointers that you would probably give them? I don't know, Owl, if that was you raising your hand. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that was me. Yeah,
Head Leo.
yeah, I can give definitely pointers more on the not on the finance, but more on the tech side, right? If you want to become like a developer or build a product. Unfortunately, today, yes, there's a lot of barrier to entry, right? So this is what we're trying to solve. But let's forget our product for now and think about like today. If I'm going into Web3, like it's kind of difficult because like you have to learn Solidity, ideally, if you want to build anything like that's not just like a pre-configured template, right? So I would recommend Mastering Ethereum by Andreas Antonopoulos. It's kind of like the Bible on like Ethereum programming. But even that's not enough because that's just a smart contract side. Then if you want to build a website or something like dApp, yeah, there's like a bunch of tools, right? Like Web3.js, Ethers. So that's the basics. And then obviously like how to get into it. I mean, you can build a small project or go to hackathons. Also contribute to open source, right? So Tabasco mentioned like how on the community side, like anyone can join. Specifically on on the tech side, I think a big thing is open source, right? A lot of the stuff is transparent in blockchain, like smart contracts, but also various types of tooling. And best way to get into that is to maybe see if you can contribute, because like some of those open source projects aren't even backed by companies, right? So if there's a fix you can do, if there's a small bug, right? I wouldn't build a huge feature initially if there's a small bug. Well, if you can fix it and make a pull request, that's always welcome. I recently had a pull request on, it's not merged yet, but I have a pull request on Gnosis Safe, for example, on their SDK. There was a small bug. I was programming, I found a solution, and made the fix on my machine, but then I pushed that to their repository and suggested they merge it back so that now everyone else doesn't have to bang their head on that problem. Now, obviously, what we're trying to build is that our goal is that you don't have to like get into Web3, if you will, as a builder, in the sense that we're trying to make it so that like you don't have to use all this tooling, and our API abstracts a lot of the logic for you for common use cases. Not everything, obviously, but like the point is that right now you need to manage a private key. You also need to pay for gas, and so wallet abstraction is very interesting for that. I think both for developers, but also for users. I could imagine a future where like most users, not only are trading and interacting with multiple blockchains without realizing it, but also don't have to pay any gas fees, for example, and don't have to worry about wallet recovery because they can use things like social recovery, where like if I lose my private key, I can say like my mom or my dad or my friend can help me unlock my wallet, and that's really powerful. So I love wallet abstraction. So and then what we're trying to do is like build easier tooling on top of that, so you can deploy like if you're building an NFT collection or if you're launching a membership or subscription, those types of things are abstracted for you. But I would, if you really want to get into Web3, I would definitely do the basics as well, like smart contract programming and the JavaScript tooling. And most of the tooling is a JavaScript today. There's a few things in Rust, but I would start with JavaScript because I'm TypeScript because it's easier.
Go ahead, David, and then Chris.
Yeah, I mean, there's tools for traders and users, and there's tools for builders too. You can kind of separate them sometimes. For users, I think in general, data aggregation is really important. Just because of the sheer number of projects and options people have. Again, when it comes to ecosystems, bridges, dexes, and aggregators, aggregating those aggregators, or price charts and bridges, and especially dexes, is super important for usability, and it's one of the things MTOP Swap aims to solve. Also SIM swapping, phishing attacks are really prevalent, as well as maybe a lack of smart contract quality in this relatively new space. So security is a huge thing for a lot of people. And for builders, that's something that ChainStack does really well. Is their RPC nodes and just access to APIs and making it easy to scale your project. A lot of projects are open source, but can you tap into the API? That's like a whole other thing, and it saves countless hours and enables people to scale so much easier. So that's important to builders. But either way, the space moves really fast, really fast. You have to be quick on your feet, which is where the feedback loop is super important. Like, always be listening to your comments and your community on Discord or Telegram or wherever, and be flexible and quick on your feet, and be open to maybe changing or tweaking the idea you had a year ago, because chances are people's both trader and builder needs are different a year later.
Go ahead, Chris. Great points, David.
Yeah, so these are all really good points. They're really technical though, and I think if I were looking at it from the perspective of somebody who's getting into crypto, they probably don't know anything about crypto or DeFi. So I guess the stance I would take is maybe the opposite side of a non-technical perspective, is understanding at least just how to interact with crypto in general. Like, what even is crypto? How do I buy crypto? And without plugging any specific centralized exchange, because that's such an easy way to get into it, I think my advice would just be, like, go open up an account with a centralized exchange and put $100 in there, put a couple, $1,000, whatever you can spare, and buy like Bitcoin, buy Ethereum, understand what's actually happening in the process, and then start researching the underlying asset itself to understand not only the value prop, but like what the market sentiment is on that specific one. Like, we all know, Bitcoin has a finite limit that's being mined, and Ethereum is, even though they're still minting for inflationary increase on a daily basis based off of VIP 1559, we're going through a burn rate that's greater than what the minting is. So Ethereum is right now the only deflationary asset in crypto. So, like, what does that mean, and what does that mean for price action over time? And then getting into like hardware devices. Okay, I don't want to store it on a centralized exchange, so now let me transfer it to a hardware device and see what that's all about. Hardware devices have been coming down in price, like, ledgers, I think you can get for like $60 now or whatnot. So they're not that expensive. You obviously can get some of the really cool touchscreen UI ones that are several $100s and whatnot, but that's not necessary. You can just get a straight hardware device and see what that's like. You can open up an MPC wallet with some of our other providers that we've seen on here, that we've even had as panelists, and understand what like that is about. I think there's so much learning that goes on in just the core functionality of how to interact with the blockchain, store assets, and what actually you're doing, that I think is the fundamental baseline that you need to understand as somebody who wants to participate in crypto. And then you can get into like the interaction of what a smart contract is. Like, I can build a smart contract for betting and whatnot if I wanted to, and deploy that on chain, and deposit assets directly to it, and all of that. Like, what, and learn programming of Solidity, and interacting with dApps, and all of those types of things. So I would say, like, that first step is just understanding the baseline, and then going into the next level. And then, of course, there's NFTs and all of that too, which, like, I'm still trying to grasp the NFT world myself, that I ask Bianca about all the time.
You brought up an interesting point about kind of how, like, on the community facing side, there's processes. Even like when I joined the space, a couple years ago, I started very similar to what you just kind of mentioned, where I Bitcoin was I think this was in 2013 or maybe a little bit sooner, right before the bull cycle, and everybody started talking about it again. And for me, with somebody with a like heavy marketing background, I was just fascinated on like on the question of, okay, where did I need to be to learn about emerging technologies? Like where do I as an individual need to be researching to be able to learn about this, but also to prosper in this, or to be able to understand and see what can be scaled at large with this. Because I, you know, the reason why I even found out about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then from there it was like Ripple and so much other stuff. I took the time myself to be able to learn, and a lot of it was, you know, trying to cherry pick who I was getting my education from, and a lot of times that came from like forums or YouTube, and some of those were sketchy. And so there's a lot of learning and, you know, stuff that we still need to, because not everybody has the time, I guess is what I'm trying to break down. Not everybody has the time to do that. Gabriel, you had your hand up. I'm not sure if you put it down or if you want to just kick it off to David.
Yeah, no, for sure. Uh, Everything you guys have said like really resonated with me, and I kind of had a similar path too, where I for a while I was following this space, but I wasn't really working in it. And it's like I love that you brought up this question, because there's probably people that are listening in that um, are in that boat. And I was having a similar conversation with a friend of mine over the weekend who is incredibly passionate about Web3, about cryptocurrency, has been investing in it for quite some time, reads about it daily. He's talking to me about it all the time, but he works in traditional finance, and we were talking about. I asked him like, why don't you get into the space if you're so passionate about it? And he didn't really know how to approach it. And I think the best advice, which is a little bit more simple than everything we've talked about, but I think it still can go a long way, is your network is your net worth. So like look up local events, go and get embedded into different communities, whether they're in person or digitally. I think the space is very welcoming for builders and people that wanna enter it and take part in it. And then over time, as you build your network, opportunities really tend to arise. And I think that's like just in general good advice for anyone that's listening that wants to get in the space or be more involved.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I mean, a few years ago, most people bought Doge or ETH maybe on Robinhood or something, and they might not even know that there are hundreds of thousands of tokens. And, but did they download a wallet and bridge to the DeFi world? Probably not. They probably just kept it on a centralized exchange. So, I mean, as Chris mentioned, a really great point, like taking a step back and realizing that most of the terms we use on a day-to-day basis, other people have no fucking clue what that means at all. Like, if I say I'm building a meta aggregator on the blockchain, 90% of people have no clue what that means. So yeah, education is a powerful use case, right? YouTube videos, attending local events like Gabriel just mentioned. But importantly, just like connecting your bank account and diving into a centralized exchange to start. And maybe if you're feeling extra bold, downloading a wallet and diving into the fast-paced, wild world of DeFi.
Go ahead, Tabasco.
Yeah, I think like David and a few of the other speakers mentioned, education is really important, of course, but education only goes as far as the utility of the space itself. So, Web3 and blockchain as an ecosystem, in my opinion, can't just be purely like buy, sell tokens, stuff like that. That's of course a major component of it, and that's probably why I'd say at least half of us are here today. But I think at the foundation of it, Web3 as an ecosystem is built to be a sort of platform for applications and solutions to real world problems and to actually create experiences. So education, especially in DeFi, this is all very important. But I think it's important to actually have like a group of people to educate, right? So the next question then would be, we can't just go out and like shove all these terms in people's faces and say, oh, this is what this means. This is what this means. We need to have a base of people that are interested in learning what these things mean. And I think we're still a little ways away from that. Of course, there are still people coming to the space. There's developers, there's users, there's traders. But I mean, as David was mentioning a few years ago, we were all, you had the whole Ethereum and Dogecoin, all the craziness over there. And we're definitely far from that right now. in terms of the volume of new people coming into the space. So there isn't a whole lot of people to educate, if that makes sense. So I think the next step, in this conversation would be figuring out use cases and figuring out things that actually bring people into the space, like tangible applications. And I was actually on a space this morning talking about this a little bit, but I think finding a way to leverage blockchain, leverage kind of the tech stack and the philosophy that we've created within Web3 to ultimately create solutions, create applications that offer something that Web 2 doesn't, or traditional centralized technologies don't. That's our path to essentially getting people in. And then once we have a large amount of people in, that's when we can start thinking about things like education and expanding upon more internal use cases, which I think DeFi and some of these other things are advanced to the point where you still need that initial onboarding point before people are ready for that. So I think we still, as an ecosystem, need to figure out exactly what that is and how we start to, I hate the term onboard the mainstream, but it's true in this case in terms of we need to figure out a way to get real people back into the space, sort of like what was happening a few years ago.
I 100% agree. Right now, it's, for lack of better term, it's very incestuous. So go ahead, Leo.
Yeah, thanks all. I want to mention, I said thumbs down at the mention of Ledger because I'm on team Trezor. Ledger betrayed me, so I wanted to give love to them. But no, more seriously, I think today most people see the solution. Education is great, but in my view, the one big problem is that people see the solution as like we need to educate more people, and I think there's going to be a point where you just can't teach someone like everything about blockchain. And the same way that like today you might use the internet, right? You'll use websites like X, Twitter, whatever, and you don't think about like how the internet works, right? You don't think about like most people that use the internet don't know how like HTTP works or all the underlying protocols. The same thing should apply to blockchain, where like sure we can push on the kind of on one side of the equation is like educating people better, but also building products that don't require people to learn as much is also just as important in my view, right? If you think about something like Starbucks Odyssey and the experience there is like you don't have to think about blockchain, right? You don't need to like buy some crypto to like mint their like NFT stamps, and those are the types of products I think that will eventually reach the mainstream. So you'll still need some education, right? I think especially about the philosophy, right? But maybe less about the technology. Like most users won't have to think about like how does like Ethereum protocol work and whatever, right? They'll think, oh, I own these assets are decentralized. That means that like, the same way that like, my assets can be stolen or frozen. If people that use Robinhood and saw Robinhood get, frozen during like the crazy meme stock trading will be like, oh, these assets, these can't be frozen, right? And so we still need education, but we definitely need to reduce the minimum amount of education that people need to get, because like, you can't expect everyone to get a PhD in Web3 and then have the whole world using it, right? If you want the whole world using Web3, that all they should need is like a basic introduction, or not even think about it initially, and understand like the value proposition, but not everything about it necessarily. And I think that's something that's, there's certain projects working on solutions incrementally, and once we reach a point where like now you don't even think about Web3, I think that's where like we can get a lot of people onboarded, as like Tabasco said. I don't know. What do you think, Tabasco?
No, I totally agree with you. I think you made some super solid points there.
No, great points all around. And for the next question, as we start wrapping it up, I did want to kick it over to Om. I know you have a cutoff, but I guess let's look forward. I think we can all agree that one of the barriers to adoption is just use of ease. Like even, us as crypto natives, I know I complain about this all the time. We have 20 wallets, 10 different crypto apps. It's a lot to handle. So and maybe I'd like to hear a little bit about and we'll go around the panel, how your company is working for more seamless integrations, and where do you see some of the opportunities for real mass adoption in the future? So I'll kick it off with Om, and then we can go around.
Yeah, I think, for mass adoption to really happen, the first step that we need to take is create interfaces that are human readable and really usable by the everyday person. Like most people that come into the space can't decode a JSON blob or like a bytecode and all this stuff. And that's what people are facing on a day-to-day basis. You look at experienced people like Kevin Rose, who came into the space and still got scammed because he signed something he didn't understand. And I think without interfaces that make it human readable, we're not going to reach a proper, we're not going to really make any progress. Right now, it's just too complex, and we're very much at a bare metal stage. And I think that's great for builders because there's a lot to do.
Great take. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
Yeah, definitely. I can talk about how we can actually the user interfaces is not just like building a nice looking UI, because a big issue, right? Like Uniswap UX looks nice, but then every time I click a button, I get a freaking pop up from like MetaMask, right? And that's horrible in my view. That's not how you use the web. And we need to, I think that the big issue is that like, and this was an issue with myself as well, is that like you get into Web3 often by learning about Bitcoin or Ethereum. And so you get hyper focused on this like super decentralized paradigm. However, we kind of have to accept the trade-off of like onboarding users and not necessarily having them use a hardware wallet from day one, right? So if you're going to store like $1 million, definitely use a hardware wallet. If I want to do a simple thing where I'm like getting these Starbucks stamps, for example, I shouldn't need a hardware wallet. And so we've seen the evolution where like you used to have like $10 fees on Ethereum, right? I mean, you still do like very high fees. Then we had like very cheaper fees on like Polygon. So that was like initially like a lot of people were like, we're going to get a lot of adoption, and we got more adoption through these L2s. However, that wasn't enough, because like even if it's 1 cent, that's 1 cent too much for the average user. Like the moment I have to put money in, it's over. So then we have things like gas sponsorship, where developers can pay for the transaction fees of their users. So now you get a much nicer experience where you don't have to pay for gas. However, you still have to sign data. That's still horrible. I'm still getting a MetaMask pop-up, but I'm not paying any gas, but I still need like to do the whole sign-up flow where like I have to store the words and stuff. So the next step in my view is like MPC solutions, which are like kind of custodial, but you can they're pretty secure, and you can make them like federated where you have multiple organizations. So I'm thinking specifically of we have an MPC provider, which is like DFNS, but there's also things like what's it called? I forgot. The Wallet Connect. No, Wallet Connect, I believe, has an MPC solution as well. I'm not certain, but there's a few wallets where you just log in with Google and you get a wallet, right? And that's the experience you really need for like mainstream adoption, I think. Even though, yes, it's not the perfect solution, it is the solution that like will get more people onboarded, and I'd rather them get onboarded that way than stay in the kind of centralized space, right? At one point, you're not going to think about your wallet, and I think that's the killer use case for onboarding people, killer solution for onboarding people, right?
Great points. Great points. Great takes. And I guess one other question. As we talk about, different use cases, is there any areas that you think are still untapped in the blockchain industry? Like we've seen recently, SocialFi's kind of been taken off. Any thoughts about where we might see some of these like different wave trends coming in the near future? Go ahead, Al. Leo, sorry.
Okay, Leo, yeah. I mean, I'm super excited about it. It's not going to be anytime soon. So I don't know if your question was like, does it have to be now or in the future? But I'm super hyped about like real world assets because that's very interesting to me, like real estate, energy, just any types of financial asset, but that isn't necessarily just like crypto tokens that represent like real world businesses, stuff like that. However, the big barrier there is not technological. The big barrier there is just the regulations, right? So I don't think we're going to see this in the US anytime soon, especially with the SEC action. There are certain jurisdictions, like I live in Dubai, and there's like some people are experimenting with like real estate. We're working with an energy company, Electrobras. They're issuing like carbon bonds. So I think that could be very interesting and has a lot of synergies with DeFi. We've also seen, I believe, MakerDAO has a few corporate bonds that are underlying the DAI token that was in collaboration with SocGen, the French bank. We've seen a little bit of that, but like at scale, there's going to need to be a lot of regulatory reform for that.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of expand on what Leo was mentioning, I worked with a company in the ICP blockchain sphere, who is right now experimenting with NFTs that are asset backed using gold bars. And those NFTs are essentially an on-chain digital certificate of authenticity that when you click on it, you'd be actually able to see the gold print, like the bar in the vault with the actual number inscripted in it. And Switzerland is really awesome, like already basically adopting that and on board with that regulation there. It seems like they're going through with that. And that's like imminent. So we're seeing a lot of that already happening. Go ahead, David, or Leo, I don't know who was first.
Yeah, SocialFi, huge opportunity. Revenue share, pretty big opportunity too. Those kind of go together. Real estate fi, I don't know what you would call that, but yeah, that's definitely a thing that has not garnered enough attention yet. That's a great point. I do think offering ways to basically buy or own a house on chain are possible. But like at the end of the day, people want to just know, how do I get my money from my bank? How do I buy crypto? Blending the, sexes and dexes, kind of with like automatic wallet generation of some kind. Buy the NFT or the token without thinking about what chain. And then how do I get my money off back to my bank? That's the ultimate onboarder there. The less clicks, the better. I don't know, like someone mentioned, if you create a Google account, it just creates a wallet for you. That would be great, albeit a bit centralized. But just to answer your question earlier quickly, 3 videos from the left on the pinned board is MTopSwap Twitter video overview of our features. But basically, we're aggregating the aggregators on 10 chains, and we have all the CoinGecko tokens. Choose your input, output, find best price. You have charts on the same page. You can trade multiple pairs at the same time and have charts open for all of them if you want, and save those layouts that you frequently trade. And of course, a bridge aggregator all on the same page. So that's kind of like what, aggregation is what I'm biased to. But it was great talking to all you and meeting some of you guys. I followed everyone here. Cheers.
Thanks so much, David. Go ahead, Bianca.
Nope, I was going to ask that, it's time to wrap up. I know a lot of the speakers here have a hard cutoff.
Yeah, let's go. I think you cut off, Bianca, but maybe we'll go through the speakers really quick. Tabasco, anything you want to leave us with, anything that's coming up with ChainStack, and then we'll kick it over to Chris or anybody from the front team.
Yeah, thanks for having me on today. Super interesting discussion. I love this topic. You talk about this topic for hours and hours, and it never ends. In terms of stuff coming up with ChainStack, we will have a pretty decently significant announcement, I think probably being posted in the next 15 minutes. So any developers here, if you, I guess for those, we can just I'll drop it in here. We are going to be one of the very first providers to support Scroll Sepolia natively in our platform for Elastic nodes. So we're going to post about that in like the next 12 minutes. So check that out if you like layer 2s and ZK rollup, stuff like that. That's a pretty cool announcement. We have a lot of other stuff coming out over the next few weeks, and a lot of stuff that has recently released. We've been doing a full push on global Elastic nodes and really trying to support and empower developers in creating truly powerful and efficient applications. So check out @ChainStackHQ is our Twitter, and chainstack.com is our website. Thank you again for having me today. Love this space.
Thanks, Tabasco. What about you, Leo? Sorry for Leo. And then I know Mike Ohm did have to jump off, but make sure to follow the Wallet Guard account. I'm a user of it. Stay safe in those streets. It gives you an easy to read format of what's coming in and out of your wallet when you're going to sign it. So quick shout out to to Ohm and the Wallet Guard team. Go ahead, Leo.
I want to mention a quick shout out to ChainStack because we do use them as one of our RPC providers. And I want to mention, I think a pretty cool feature they have is the marketplace. So, if you want to go use more advanced use cases, they have like a marketplace for APIs. As for us, our protocol, we're launching at SmartCon in October. So, the API product is still being built. But essentially the idea will be that you don't have to, RPCs are great, but you still need to use a lot of tooling to interact with them. So, with our solution, it'll be fully abstracted. So you can launch like a collection, membership, hopefully a connection with Shopify. If you like, you can have like loyalty program and digital receipts for like purchases on your Shopify account that get minted as NFTs. So we'll be launching at SmartCon in Barcelona, October 3rd, I believe.
Thanks so much
and
for
thanks
coming.
for all the speakers. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much for coming. Make sure to follow all the speakers and make sure to follow the front team. I'll kick it off to anybody from the front team who wants to wrap it up for us.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, so thanks everyone for having us and having us back. I'm kind of bummed I'm not going to see you again next week, Jess. This is our last one, but happy to pop back on whenever. But yeah, so Front basically is building an API first solution that allows users to connect through an embedded viewpoint to their centralized exchange or self-custodial wallets, and then transfer them directly into whatever app that they are connecting from. So if you think about it from like a dApp perspective, you log into a dApp and you connect your MetaMask wallet, you can then transfer your assets directly from Robinhood into your MetaMask wallet, all from that dApp without ever leaving there. No need for copy and paste of a public address or QR code signature, anything like that. Still persists all of the same security that stays in place for signing and authorizing transactions through MetaMask and everything. So still completely and 100% secure, just makes it much easier from a user's perspective. So it's really interesting what we've been doing and companies we've been working with. So definitely stay tuned for some very interesting updates coming in the next couple weeks even.
Awesome. Love it. Yeah. Thanks to you and the team. It's been great having these discussions with you. I'll throw it over to Bianca. Any last comments or words?
No, yeah, I would just echo what Chris just mentioned. We're going to have some really interesting updates coming within the next couple of weeks. And then also just make sure to DM me if you're going to be at Permissionless. That's coming up in September, as well as TechCrunch. The team is going to be at both. Lots of exciting and fun things happening at both. We'd love to connect with everybody and just have some fun. So yeah, and thank you so much, Jess, for hosting us these last couple of weeks. It's been really great being able to connect with the people in the space and being able to have conversations like this. They're very important.
Yeah, definitely enjoyed it. And we will have a playlist with our 4-episode series. Lots of alpha in those spaces. Make sure to follow all the speakers. Thank you to all the listeners, and make sure to give the front team a follow. And yeah, good luck on your future projects. And I'll be definitely tuning into what you guys are doing. And you guys are always welcome back here. So thanks everybody for coming. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for Crypto and Coffee. Have a great day.